Adam. First on the agenda, we have a hearing on Senate Bill 400. Adam, can you give us a quick briefing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 400 would provide for a new distinctive license plate, the Sporting Kansas City license plate. The plate will be subject to the $250 initial plate commitment and payment of up to $5,000 in development costs, as is customarily required for new distinctive plates. Initial registration and subsequent renewals would be made through the county treasurer for individuals seeking the plate. An annual logo use royalty payment fee in the amount of $25 up to $100 to be determined by On Goal LLC, the parent company of Sporting Kansas City, would be required and for the plates, and such fees would go towards the Kansas City Soccer Foundation in support of the Victory Project. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Committee, any questions for Adam? Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend Mr. Chair for your excellent timing on these bills. You know, we had the Chiefs license plate I think it was a Monday or Tuesday after we made the Super Bowl, and now we've got this license plate after the weekend with the big announcement of the World Cup matches in Kansas City. So, Mr. Chair, you just have excellent timing on considering these license plate bills.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, first up we have John Federico with Federico Durst Consulting.
It's my understanding that's not what the agenda shows. Have to keep an eye on that Stephen Durst character. Can't turn you back for a minute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am John Federico, Federico Durst Consulting, here on behalf of the Sporting Kansas City Soccer Organization. We are in obvious full support of Senate Bill 400 and the charity it will support. You'll hear more details of the Victory Project from Ms. Clark, and we'll be happy to answer any additional questions or provide additional information after the committee's over. I thought it might be, and I'll be very brief on this, Mr. Chairman, lay a little bit of a foundation how we ended up with Sporting Kansas City here in Kansas. Sporting Kansas City is Kansas's only professional sports team. The team came into existence as one of the original 10 members of the newly formed Major League Soccer Professional League in 1995. At the time, the team was owned by the Lamar Hunt family and based in Missouri, playing under the name of the Kansas City Wiz. In an effort to keep professional soccer in the region, the team was purchased in 2006 by an investor group that included Kansas's Cliff Elig, among others. In 2008, the team moved their matches from Arrowhead Stadium in Missouri to Community America Ballpark in Kansas City, Kansas. That simple decision, picking Kansas over Missouri, led the way to other investments in the sport of soccer and has earned Kansas recognition as the soccer capital of America. Other notable milestones surrounding the soccer club, as we now know as Sporting Kansas City, include a name change in 2010 and the construction of a $180 million soccer-specific venue called Children's Mercy Park, located in the Legends complex of Kansas City, Kansas. To this day, with your help in maintaining its status as one of the premier soccer venues in America, Children's Mercy Park continually hosts professional, collegiate, and international matches that provide global exposure for Kansas and attracts people and their dollars from all over the world to our humble state. In 2017, just 2 miles away from Children's Mercy Park, construction was completed on a second world-class soccer facility in Kansas, Compass Minerals National Performance Center. The facility is used as a training center for both Sporting and the United States Soccer Federation, which governs all aspects of national, professional, and youth soccer in the country. This facility alone generates over 10,000 hotel rooms each and every year and over 1.3 million visitors to its youth soccer fields. Combined, the two venues account for over $250 million in positive economic impact for Kansas annually. It is with that as a foundation that we are both fortunate and grateful that Sporting Kansas City chose Kansas as its home, and it's why we respectfully ask that you give fair consideration to advancing Senate Bill 400 from your committee and allow fans from across the state to show their support of both the soccer club and the Victory Project. And Mr. Chairman, if you'll indulge me, yes, there was a big announcement this weekend. World Cup is coming to Kansas City, and Kansas stands to benefit greatly from it. If you'll allow me to take a minute. So World Cup, the main matches are being played on the Missouri side at Arrowhead Stadium. We don't have an 80,000 person stadium that we can accommodate them. But the teams that will be coming to North America to practice and participate in the World Cup will need to pick a home base, a base camp. And Kansas, because we have invested in these facilities, we're likely at a minimum to have 2 teams based here on the Kansas side, and more likely 3 to 4. We won't know that for quite a bit, but when FIFA came to Kansas and looked at the facilities that we had available, they were stunned by them, and they said that this is going to be the mecca of base camps. Not only because of the facilities, but geographically where we're located. And they can get to any of these other cities in both Mexico, Canada, and in the United States quicker than being based anywhere else. Why does that matter? Because we want to attract the best teams on the Kansas side. And with those teams come their rabid fans. And unlike the Super Bowl, unlike the NFL draft, they come for 30-plus days at a time to follow their team. And that's a concept we as Americans struggle with, that they would be that passionate about it. But to paint a picture, and then I'll leave the podium, Mr. Chairman, in 2022, the NBA Finals had 25 million viewers. The Super Bowl in 2022 had 123 million viewers. The 2022 World Cup had 1.1 billion viewers. So the sport of soccer is popular, the sport of soccer is business, and we are well positioned, again, related to the World Cup and the investments that we've made and the team that we have and the facilities we have in Kansas. So with that, I appreciate that editorial, if you will, or update. Happy to stand for questions now or at the appropriate time.
We'll take questions at the end. Next up, we have Lexi Clark, Executive Director of the Victory Project. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you and good morning, Chairman and committee. My name is Lexi Clark and I am with the Victory Project in Sporting Kansas City, and it is my honor to share a little bit more about the Victory Project, the philanthropic entity that will benefit from this plate if it is moved forward. The Victory Project's mission on our website is to support children through all of life's challenges. And that's a very broad mission. And so I'd like to focus on 3 main pieces. The first being supporting children battling cancer. Arguably the most visible part of the Victory Project is the honoree experience at our home matches. If you've had the opportunity to come to a sporting match, and if you haven't, I would invite you to do so. The Victory honoree is celebrated as part of the ritual in the pre-match. They sit in a special chair and the fans chant their name. But more than that, we treat that family to a weekend that is outside of the treatment and the stress of going through cancer or another illness. Instead, we give them the opportunity to interact with our players and to spend the weekend at Great Wolf Lodge and to get a shopping spree with all the sporting swag that they want. And then they get to go to the match. And one of our honorees this past year sent us a letter, and she shared that she'd never felt more special. We really do treat them like that they are celebrities. And it's a huge part of sporting culture. And that's part of the Victory Project and Sporting Kansas City. Our fans, our community, our players, our ownership, the Victory Project and giving back to the community and to these kids is so integral to who we are as a club. Outside of the honoree, we also want to support access to soccer for all children, regardless of physical or financial limitations. I think we all know at this point that playing sports is something that can keep us both in school, keeps us focused, keeps us healthy, active, and all of those things. Unfortunately, sports is increasingly more expensive for participation. So one of the things that the Victory Project dedicates funds towards are Soccer for All grants. These grants are considered on a rolling basis, and they are given out to programs in the Heartland, Kansas, Missouri, wherever we receive applications, to make sure that any child who wants to play soccer, whether they have financial limitations or any kind of physical or mental limitation, they have programs, well-equipped staff, appropriate equipment to play what we call the beautiful game. And finally, to kind of round it out, we celebrate the kids through the Emerging Leaders Sports Scholarship, and that is an opportunity for children, graduating seniors, I guess they're not kids at that point, to apply for a $5,000 scholarship. What I love about this scholarship is that they do not need to be pursuing a four-year school, and they do not need to be playing soccer. They can be attending a junior college, an accredited trade school, and we will invest $5,000 into their education. I think that this is huge. And the only thing that we ask of them is to share how the sport of soccer has impacted their lives up to this point. So with that, I would like to just simply share that if this plate is considered to move forward, any of the philanthropic benefit of this will go towards the Victory Project and our various projects. Overall, we're supporting kids through all of life's challenges. And this time I'd be open to questions.
Committee questions. Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Senator Cluse, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not necessarily a question for the conferees, but something else regarding plates.
Okay, thank you very much, Lexi. Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if we could have research help us with all these different license plates that are coming forward. I had a few questions that may help the committee. And we may have had this information in the past, but to be updated, first of all, how many plates do we have issued currently statewide? Like what's that number? And then is there any way to have a projection like over the next 5 years of how many plates would be available? The next question would be, of all those plates that are currently there, how many are specialty plates, the breakdown? And this is just, excuse my ignorance, but is there sunsets on any of these specialty plates, or when would one cease to be, to open room for another request?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The sunset would be that they have to continually have a 250 initial plate commitment, and then a rolling 125 commitment through renewals. So if they don't keep up to that amount of individuals who reserve the plate on a biennium year, the division will stop producing them. The individuals will still keep the plates, but the division will just stop producing them if they don't have the commitments for that plate. So that would be I believe, the sunset.
Jill Shelley, Legislative Research. Currently, there are 68 specialty license plates in the statutes. A number of those are special for military service, but then there are the beneficiary ones. I have a spreadsheet that lists those. I would be happy to share that with the committee.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And you don't have a crystal ball?
sir.
Thank you. Are there any further proponents? Any neutrals? Any opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 400. We'll turn our attention to Senate Bill 357. Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 357 would designate a portion of U.S. Highway 81 in Republic County as the Merle Miller Memorial Highway. Under Section 1 of the bill, the Merle Miller Memorial Highway would begin at the portion of U.S. Highway 81 where it enters the state at the Nebraska-Kansas state line, and then south to the southern border of Republic County. As is customary, highway signs designating the highway as the Merle Miller Memorial Highway would be subject to the cost of the signs, plus an additional 50% would have to be paid to the Secretary of Transportation prior to the sign's installation. And then secondly, Section 2 of the bill would remove this portion of the highway from the currently designated Frank Carlson Memorial Highway, essentially shifting that down from the southern border of Republic Highway, or Republic County, excuse me, that's where the Frank Carlson Memorial Highway would start. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Committee questions? Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Adam. Does the funding, does that come out of SGF or the Secretary of Transportation, KDOT's budget, or where does that come from?
The funding would have to be provided by gifts to the state, to the Secretary of Transportation, to pay for the essentially 150% of the costs of the signs, plus an additional 50% for future maintenance and replacement costs. So that would, the extent of funding that would come from gifts outside of the state.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, further questions? See none, thank you, Adam. First up, we have Margot Miller-Lubon. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning. My name is Margot Miller-Lubon, and I want to share something with you. It's my pleasure to share with you a special man's dream. He dreamed of a 4-lane highway running north to south across Kansas from Nebraska to Oklahoma. He also hoped that the other states would come on board to extend it across their states. That highway was called the Pan American Highway, to be known as US 81. This man was Merle M. Miller, editor and publisher of the Belleville Telescope, Belleville, Kansas, and my dad. As is typical of a small-town publisher, he took the problems of the world on his shoulders. He felt that the highways were the answer to growth in Kansas. Belleville is located where 2 highways cross, Highway 81 north and south, and US 36 east and west, and it became known as the Crossroads of America. Dad was well aware of the significance of good highways on the economy of Kansas. For many years, Dad traveled all over the state of Kansas and the adjacent states promoting good highways. People used to ask Dad how long he had been interested in highways, and his answer was, all my life. His father, A.Q. Miller, was one of the founders of the earliest highways in Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. Yes, this is the same A.Q. Miller that the School of Journalism at Kansas State is named after. Dad used to say, maybe it was the turtle that got stuck in a rut that started my interest in highways. Dad could remember riding in the family car with his dad as they explored dirt roads to determine highway routes. They always carried a shovel to dig out when they got stuck, and getting stuck was a common thing. Dad could remember one Sunday trip. His dad, A.Q., had taken them on a mud road that had only 2 deep ruts. The ruts were so deep, once the car was in them, you couldn't get it out. They came upon a turtle trying to climb out of the rut, and he kept sliding back in. After a short wait, his father AQ impatiently drove on, much to the whole family's misery. Dad was president of the Pan American Highway Association in 1967 when he was encouraged by friends to take a caravan of 23 cars and 63 people following the highway from Winnipeg, Canada, through the United States and Mexico across Central and South America. Dad had lots of friends, and one couple who had lived in Peru when working as a Pan Am pilot offered to plan the itinerary, figure out how far they could drive each day, and check with friends concerning the availability of gas and places to stay. After crossing the border into Mexico, the group learned to fill up with gas whenever they saw a filling station, don't stop along the roadway because of the danger of bandits, try to keep vehicles together for each other's protection, and don't wander far from your vehicle. Don't lose your money or car ownership papers. The trip covered more than 16,000 miles. With this caravan of goodwill, they succeeded in promoting US 81 and the Pan American Highway as an international highway. Dad continued his efforts to support the paving and other improvements of US 81 for many years because he felt it was the best direct north and south route across the nation. And we needed one major expressway to carry north and south industrial and tourist traffic. A 4-lane section of US 81 between Salina and Minneapolis was completed in 1971. But Dad wanted it to be completed from that point all the way to the Nebraska line. He also met with the governor of Nebraska and a group of highway supporters from York, Nebraska, to encourage a 4-lane extension from the state line to York, Nebraska, where it would interconnect with US 80. Dad was able to see this dream completed in his lifetime. I was living in Pratt at the time, and that first road trip to Belleville on US 81's new 4-lane brought tears to my eyes. At that time, I had hoped that a portion of that special area of Highway 81 would be a source of recognition for my dad, Merle M. Miller. I will stand for questions.
Committee questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Fred Arnold.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Fred Arnold. I'm the publisher and owner of the Belleville Telescope. I believe you have my written testimony and several attachments that I have included from the Telescope in recent months. If you will allow me, I would tell you that, first and foremost, I am not a man of vision. 40 years ago this very August, a much younger and less gray-haired version of me was taken out to a then 2-lane Highway 81 by my boss, Merle Miller. I was just fresh out of college at that time. And Merle said, I want you to look north and tell me what you see. I said, nothing. He said, I want you to look south. Tell me what you see. Again, I said, nothing. He looked at me and he said, your problem is you lack vision. Let me tell you what I see. I see a 4-lane road through Republic County, through Belleville. I see growing industries. I see a growing population. I see more commerce for the state of Kansas, for Republic County and Belleville. He said, I may not see that in my lifetime, but you will see that in your lifetime. That has always resonated with me. I also remember My office was across the hall from Merle's. And he was the only guy that I ever knew that had a direct phone line to Bob Dole. And I just loved to listen to those conversations. He would pick up the phone and he'd say, Bob, this is Merle. What are we going to do about that highway thing? We need to get these funds appropriated. I want that road done. Over time, it was done. And history has proven Merle's vision. We have a growing population in Belleville. We have more industry. We have more commerce. That's good for the state of Kansas. It's good for our country. Highway 81 is the only major north-south four-lane in the country. We have over 7,500 vehicles a day that pass through Republic County at this point. Representative Mann is deeply involved in helping us expand our industrial park. It has grown in recognition thanks to Merle and his vision. There are 4 people in my mind who are chiefly responsible for Highway 81 and its development. One is Senator Bob Dole. The other 2 are the late Frank Carlson and Ben Vidrickson, and the 4th is Merle Miller. Each one of the other 3 have gotten their own accolades by right. Merle has been left out, so to speak, but he would never say that he was left out. The satisfaction of having it done would be enough. I would urge you to pass this measure on. And to Senator Warren's point on the funding, I can tell you that the Belleville Telescope will either fund all or a substantial part of the requirements for getting this project completed. And I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Fred. I wanted the committee to know how long you've worked on this project with me, for probably 3 or 4 years, just fine-tuning it. So it's been a vision of yours also, and I really do appreciate your articles you've put in your newspaper, not forgetting who Merle was and what you were trying.
I'm very passionate about it, Senator Bowers, and very passionate about my former boss, extremely so.
So we think we have it right, so we'll see how we can continue, and I do appreciate your gift of stepping up to do that as well. So thank you for being with us, Fred. He left at 4:45 this morning in the fog. So welcome to Topeka.
Well worth the trip.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation today. And it sounds like you've worked on the project for a number of years and for answering the question that I posed earlier. So that's very generous of it's a newspaper, your newspaper there. And Bella, very generous. And then the proposed part of the highway to be named would be from the Kansas-Nebraska border all the way through Republic County to the, okay, great. Well, thanks for the information. And it was rather dense fog this morning, so I'm glad to see you arrive safely today.
I almost missed Topeka, period.
Oh, well, it was so dense you couldn't see the dome.
That's correct.
It was. I traveled from the east side of the state over, and it was as dense as I've seen it before, the fog. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Committee, further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next up, we have Adam Anderson. We'll take Adam as written testimony. Further questions for any of the conferees? Seeing none, are there any neutrals? Any opponents? We'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 357. Committee will probably start working bills on the 8th, so be prepared. Thank you. With that, we're adjourned.